Eric, welcome back to the show. Always good to see you.
Thank you. Always glad to be able to have this interesting conversation with you because I know we don't always agree on everything. So I play a little mental game with myself of where's that balance going to fall?
Right.
What we agree on, what we challenge each other on, and what we maybe don't.
Mostly what we agree on is Dan hardly knows what he's talking about when crypto is the subject. So that's why we have to have you on the show. I think that's the thing.
You keep saying that, and I still don't believe you. I think that's a shtick. I think Dan doesn't know what he's talking about is a shtick.
So you're buying it. I've fooled at least one person then. Okay. All right. So we have had you back today. We talk about Bitcoin a lot, you and I, on the show. We have over the past couple of years, and I always have a lot of questions about it. But this time around, you have something in particular on your mind, which we were doing a little emailing yesterday, and you were saying, "What do you want to talk about?" And I thought, well, I do have this one question about Bitcoin that I'd like to start with and kind of dispense with. But you also have something on your mind that I'm eager to get to as well. But if you would indulge me, sir, one of my many Bitcoin questions. At our annual Stansberry conference in October, you mentioned I believe it was 4-year Bitcoin cycle, and I suppose the main thing I'm curious about is where are we in the Bitcoin cycle right now, I suppose, is the main question. And then just, maybe kind of describe it a little bit. But, how many times has it occurred, et cetera? What can you tell me about it?
Okay, so I'm going to try really hard to not sound like I'm dodging the question by putting a preamble out ahead of time, in that a lot of people are familiar with the notion that Bitcoin about every 4 years goes through a halving. So that's just one of the 4-year Bitcoin cycles, and has nothing to do with the price of Bitcoin. It's just that the miner rewards, MINER, miner rewards that are paid out with every block that's found, get cut in half about every 4 years. It's every 210,000 blocks. Every block is 10 minutes. Works out to be about 4 years. So that's one 4-year cycle. Doesn't have anything to do with the price or trading or adoption or anything like that. It's just a fundamental change in how much Bitcoin is spit out. And you can think of it as reducing the inflation of Bitcoin. The number of new Bitcoin that are getting released from the blockchain, every block goes down by half. So we start off with 50 Bitcoin per block, and then we went to 25, and then 12 and a half, and now we're at 6 and a quarter. So we're on the fourth cycle of that. Now, from that, the people who buy and sell Bitcoin, the humans side of this, because Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin, the network, doesn't care what Bitcoin, the coin, costs, right? Doesn't care what you think about it, doesn't care what I think about it, just cares whether or not it can conduct a transaction in a timely manner, peer-to-peer. But you and I care. And the collective, the Wyckoff composite man, so to speak, started caring, started noticing that as this halving cycle started progressing, then the humans were treating Bitcoin almost like a Wyckoff cycle. And it works out to be about, let's think of it as 4 1-year chunks of this human Rorschach test, right? We see what we want to see on it. And those are crash, and then accumulation, should sound familiar to anybody who studies Wyckoff, and then growth, and then we get a bubble. So crash is, and this is the cycle that's repeated itself. We're in the 4th iteration of this cycle. Tends to line up really well with that halving cycle, because the halving changes fundamentally how Bitcoin works. So I don't know if you want me to, I can give you some kind of dates walk you through how this cycle has played out a few times. The value of that is then it'll tell us what's coming next. So
Right.
I
So
don't know. Do you
where
think
are
you're
we now? Are we in
where?
growth?
Okay, we're at the end of the growth segment of our cycle.
Okay.
So I'm gonna roll us all the way back to 2011, 2012. We had a crash. Bitcoin was a few bucks at that
Mm-hmm.
point, right? And Bitcoin is famous for having crashes. 2011, 2012, and then we rolled into 2012 accumulation stage with about 150% return. And everybody who's watching this is smart enough to know if you crash 80%, 150% doesn't get you back to whole, right? After crashing 80%. And then we went into 2012, 2013, the growth stage that followed accumulation, and we had the first halving for Bitcoin, and then we had a 9,000% bubble stage. Then back to the beginning of the cycle, 2014, 2015 crash, down 87%. Accumulation actually went up about 150% in accumulation. And again, you don't recover from 87% crash by going up 150, right? So then we had a growth and another halving, lasted about a year, another 120%. And then the famous 2017 bubble price, we're up 2,300%. That ended cycle two, the second
Mm-hmm.
price cycle. 2018 down, call it 84%. That was our crash cycle again. 2019 accumulation up 130%. Then growth, and that took about a year. Growth came again with another halving,
Mm-hmm.
170%. Heading into the 2021 bubble, that was up 260%, which was 260% on top of the 170, on
The
top
previous,
of the
yeah.
130.
Wow.
Then we got our, you might remember FTX and Luna crashed the whole thing,
Yep.
the whole market. We're well over trillions of dollars by then. Whole thing collapsed down 77% to end cycle three. Now we're in the cycle that we're in, 2022, 2023, about a year of accumulation, 80% rebound, then a growth phase of about 250% on top of that. And that was certainly helped by the most recent halving and ETFs coming online. ETFs brought a whole new buyer into it. And then toward the end of that, we got the Trump optimism. Like Trump, hate Trump, doesn't matter. Bitcoin and cryptos responded positively. There was a lot of rationale for that because Trump partnering up with RFK Jr., who was decidedly pro crypto. Trump showing up at Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville, that sent positive vibes. And then when Trump won the election in November, we had a phenomenal Trump rally. So that just gets us toward the end of growth. So you asked where we are. We are on the cusp. We are heading into the bubble stage, which 2025 should be the bubble stage.
Yeah.
So even though we made $1 trillion in market cap gains in 2023, round numbers, we still have a lot of adoption to see. Some of the, I don't know if the next question you were going to ask would be, all right, you made $1 trillion on Bitcoin this year. Where do you possibly think that more growth can come from? Right? We have all the tailwinds that we could possibly ask for. We have Trump coming into office. We have positive, maybe SEC, get rid of Gary Gensler, et cetera. Adoption, maybe at a nation state level. Where do you possibly see a bubble coming from this? Yeah. Did I steal your next question? I hope so.
No,
absolutely.
No, absolutely not. I'm just.
So we're thinking.
My question actually is sort of a joke. Do you remember the bumper sticker that was alleged to be seen? I never saw a picture of the bumper sticker, but it was alleged to be seen around Silicon Valley in the .com bust. It said, "Please God, just one more bubble." I feel like that's where we are right now.
Yes, that's where we're at right now. Is I could pay everything off with one more bubble.
That's right. Yep.
Trump has even joked about that in his more lighter-hearted moments of interviews, saying, hey, we'll just accumulate a little bit of Bitcoin, and then that $35 trillion in
Yeah.
debt, we'll pay it with some Bitcoin. Because I think Trump is looking at the bubble economics of this
Mm,
possible as well, right? I mean, imagine if America did own 1 million Bitcoin, and then everybody else follows us into the trade, and
yeah.
that's where a bubble could come from. Is we have possibly a U.S. Bitcoin strategic reserve, right?
Right.
America has a strategic petroleum reserve, whether it's managed properly or not. It
Hmm.
should always be refilled when petroleum's cheap, and then maybe used when petroleum is outlandishly expensive. But we've got military equipment reserves. We've got medical equipment reserves. We've got a helium reserve, for goodness sake, in case we ever need that. Why wouldn't we have a Bitcoin reserve? The difference being Bitcoin is now our inflation rate is less than 1%. And you can't
Hmm.
just go out and mint some more. So plus, imagine if America decides to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Will anyone else in the rest of the world follow us? Will states decide that they should have their own? Will pensions decide?
Hmm.
Well, I can make up for a lot of ills. I mean,
Hmm.
everyone out there listening probably is already aware that there's a lot of underfunded pension problems
Right.
facing America in the future. Maybe Bitcoin can solve that. One bubble certainly could. So there you go. And that limited supply, thanks to those four halvings. Yeah, I think we have no trouble concocting a positive scenario for 2025 being bubble year. And if nothing else, it puts us in this interesting position that you know how cycles work until they don't, right? So this will be the
Hmm.
fourth time, and Bitcoin's fundamentals have never been better. And if this cycle doesn't work this time, that would be the but this time is different. Okay, hey, there you go. So we're in a position where we either get a bubble cycle or this time is different. And I don't think anybody likes to hear, well, this time is different. The bears, if you're a Bitcoin bear here, you
Hmm.
have to be saying to yourself, well, this time is different. We're not going to get the cycle that we earned from
Yeah.
from so much buyers and so much adoption.
Right. Right. This time is different. Never happens. Um,
Never.
yeah. Yeah. And this time is different is always a sign that something, other than what you expect is going to happen. So,
Right. You
and
you
it's
didn't do all your research.
right. It's usually overwhelmingly it's been, Irving Fisher's permanently high plateau of prosperity and high stock prices and things like that. Um,
Long-term capital management. We've got a new paradigm. Yeah,
yeah.
we're just gonna
Right.
keep outperforming
Yep.
forever. Yeah.
Exactly. And you could apply that to the S&P 500 by saying we just had 2 years of 20+% annualized returns, and you don't get a lot of that historically speaking. So you don't have to be bearish; just temper your expectations. Um, okay, well, I think you've satisfied me with the 4 year Bitcoin cycle, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. Um,
Are you a
but
believer, Dan, in that now?
well, I have no reason to believe that it's not a reasonable expectation, right? I mean, to say, yeah, I'm all in, it's going to happen. Well, nobody knows the future, but maybe I won't be betting against Bitcoin anytime soon. I own a teeny bit of it at this point. So if I get a bubble in the next year or so, my teeny bit could be worth quite a bit more, and maybe I'll sell some and keep the rest or something. I don't know. I don't know what I'll do, but um,
Yeah.
I'm not betting
That's
against
fair.
it.
Yeah, that leads me into a question I have about, so if 2025 is going to be bubble times, how do we know when we're getting to the top of a bubble? Are there indicators that you kind of trust to that have worked in the past cycles that you kind of look to now?
So yes, there is. I would think now. Oh boy, how rabbit hole do you want to go? Okay, so there's not a lot with Bitcoin that's not known by everyone in the market, right? There's no board of directors
Except Dan.
that's
Dan
Right.
doesn't know any of it.
No.
We're not looking at the Coca-Cola bottling and distribution company that finds ways to make sure that their numbers always hit, right?
Mm.
There are no numbers like that. There's no sales numbers, there's no quarterlies, etc. on Bitcoin. So that means anything that we think is going to happen, the real challenge is how many people are front running what we think is. If I'm telling you 2025 is going to be a bubble year, and if I'm right, at what point do you start saying enough's enough? Right, October-ish, maybe you start thinking, okay. And when I say bubble, I don't want people thinking that we're going to get another 9,300% bubble like the first time when Bitcoin was 10 million to 100 million or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We could go $1 trillion up from here, doubling, half again Bitcoin, go another trillion. So we're doubling Bitcoin from here and be around $200,000 per Bitcoin in this bubble stage. Because remember, Bitcoin was $15,000 just 15, 16 some odd months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that bubble stage could put us in the 200, 250 range. To answer your question of, well, how do we know? The old standbys. Well, there is an actual metric that you can follow. It's called a pi cycle top indicator.
Okay.
And it looks at what's going on out there, and it's for lack of a better explanation, think of it almost like crossing moving averages. So how accurate are crossing moving averages? They can be really accurate, right? When they work, they can be really accurate. So the pi cycle top indicator was created from back testing, so everybody should know that, but then proved in a cycle. So give it a couple of cycles of back testing, and then cycle 3, it worked. We call it the virtually perfect top indicator, and cycle 3, it worked. Will it work for cycle 4? I don't know. I'm going to be watching it very closely, though, but I'm thinking probably around October, the second guessing is going to start getting the best of itself. Another thing we watch, though, fear and greed index. Bitcoin and cryptos have their own fear and greed indexes. We have volatility indexes. So if fear and greed gets euphoric, if you can't get in a cab without people talking to you about cryptos and Bitcoin, we got a little bit of that during this election rally, right? It was on everybody's minds. Dumb dart throwers making tons of money, right? That's an old indicator that almost always works. Shoe shine guys. I don't know if anybody even gets their shoes shined anymore.
Yeah.
But watch for all of that. When you start feeling like a genius is probably one of the best indicators. I'm never going to sell this. In fact, I'm making plans for this second yacht and pay off my house and all that, and maybe get these lines fixed, right? When you start doing that, that's when you say, oh, maybe I should sell a little. When you think you'll never sell, maybe sell a little.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because I think you did see some of that with, just like the even round number of 100,000. Like I feel like that got people's attention, or it's getting close to 100,000. So
yeah,
but yeah,
and then apparently got married to it. This 100,000 has been pretty darn sticky. 90, 100. We're having a hard time getting past that because we got here so fast. I remember just before the election, I had an alert I sent out that said, well, as long as we stay above 54 on Bitcoin, then we're okay. Then we're still in an uptrend. And that I always think about that is, well, we sure moved from as long as we stay above 54 to knocking on the door to 100,000 very quickly. Blew through all previous all-time highs, got there really fast. So the sentiment, the American at least sentiment for maybe this administration will maybe they won't put their foot on the gas, but they'll at least take their foot off the neck of crypto. If they put their foot on the gas, whew, we're definitely going to get our bubble out of that. And no, make no mistake, the cycle is called bubble. I want people to realize it.
Yes, for a reason. For a reason.
Yes, it's called.
Yeah, I know what we're getting into.
The last three of them have been a bubble and looked like a bubble and felt like a bubble. And anybody who says they're a bubble, you're right. Absolutely, you're right. you become wrong when you say it's a bubble and it's popped and it's never coming back, because it's proven that one wrong 3 times.
And the cycle after that is called crash. that's the other thing. If you want to know,
calls them like I sees them, right? That the cycle after that is called crash, and we're not shy in this industry.
But it's interesting,
if you can consider 70 or 80% a crash.
Yeah, I mean, as a trading opportunity, of course, Bitcoin is just, it's heaven, right? Because the insane volatility and this tendency to trend for a few years. It's like the most awesome, medium term trade that you could ever imagine, or has been. It has been, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong on this. Maybe you can agree or disagree on this, but it almost perpetually feels like you missed it and you have plenty of time.
Always.
At the same time.
Yep. At the same time.
Yeah.
That's one of the smartest things I've heard anyone say about Bitcoin, is that you always feel like you missed it, and you always feel like the upside is just virtually almost unlimited. You just feel like, God, the runway on this thing is, a decade or 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever it is, and it's going to go to the moon and be $1 million or whatever. But I'm too late. It's just, it really screws with your emotions, I think, because it has been so incredibly,
I feel like there's this
volatile.
interesting phenomenon that a lot of Bitcoin adherents and another fundamental about Bitcoin is just the hoarding, HOARDING, hoarding.
Right.
That there's a lot of Bitcoin buyers that accumulate Bitcoin that they never plan to sell. I'm waiting for $1 million on mine, etc. Stuff like that.
Right.
And so we'll get a paycheck, we'll get a bonus, we'll sell something, a royalty, something like that, and go out and buy some more Bitcoin. And I think that maybe a lot of time these accumulation zones are because everybody that wants some Bitcoin runs out and buys some, pushes the price up 60,000 to 100,000. Okay. Mm-hmm. And now we're tapped out. We have everything we could possibly put into it. So Bitcoin has to sit here and accumulate for a while. And that's the buy opportunity that a lot of people, I think, hopefully should be taking advantage of, yourself included. Add to your stack. It's hard to buy tops.
Yeah, it is.
But go ahead.
Yeah. Keep stacking sats, right? Okay.
Keep stacking sats. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, if you're willing to participate in something that has a bubble and a crash every 4 years, a bubble and then a crash every 4 years, then stacking sats on that.
All right. So let's now get to the thing that I'm actually much more curious about, which we talked a little bit about by email. And I mean, when I say a little bit, like you sent me like a 1 or 2 sentence email or something, and I thought, oh, okay, well, let's talk about that, whatever that is. And presumably you know what I'm talking about, because I actually just forgot it here. But I guess the question is, what's on your mind, my friend, is really the question.
Well, so I hope I can sneak in a must buy that's not Bitcoin by the time we're done here. Something from my research. Couple of things on my mind. First off, Bitcoin doesn't operate in a vacuum. Bitcoin thinks it does, and Bitcoin maxis think they do, and Michael Saylor thinks it does, but Bitcoin doesn't exist in a vacuum. There are whole other half of our industry. Let's say Bitcoin is 55, 56% or whatever of all crypto industry out there. But that means there's another 45 or so odd percent of crypto that's not. And we call those altcoins. And they have a full spectrum of better technology, different technology, ludicrous silliness, offensiveness, right? There's cryptos that are memes. There's cryptos that are brilliant. There's problem solvers. It's almost like an unrestricted NASDAQ pink sheets, foreign markets, and teenagers or tweens that nobody can tell them no, all wrapped up into one market, right? It's very exciting. You have cryptos that can start one day and be 10 million by the end of the day, 100 million by the end of the month, and then go away. When Peanut the squirrel got killed by the state of New York, a crypto popped up called Peanut and jumped up to hundreds of millions of dollars in value because the technology makes that possible. And that unrestricted smart contracts, decentralized exchanges, new coins, memes, like I said, a lot of AI, that's a very exciting industry. And it tends to follow behind Bitcoin. We call it altcoins. We even have kind of identified altcoin season, and there's an altcoin season index where when it used to be that people would buy Bitcoin, make some money, and then some of them would look for how they could take some of that money and put it into something else. Some of it went into Lambos. Obviously, that's where we got a reputation for liking our Lambos. But some of it would go into altcoins. And we started trying to track that and start keeping track of, well, let's just say, like, use the example I used. Let's say Bitcoin does accumulate another couple of $1 trillion, goes from $2 trillion to $4 trillion. And then we're at the bubble stage and we think, what do I do next? I want to take some of my money out. Lambo, house, cosmetic surgery, whatever, some altcoins, maybe some top 10 altcoins, then maybe some top 100 altcoins, and then some top 1,000 altcoins that all do other things for people that are more adventuresome. So that's where our research service comes in, is we're constantly looking for, well, who's pushing our technology? Who's creating things that either we never knew we needed, or maybe Wall Street needs, or maybe the MDs need, etc. What is AI going to spend? What is AI going to spend its money on? How is AI going to pay each other, etc.? What kind of technologies do we need to control AI? I just got back from Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, and I would say every third booth, I went to the International Startup Pavilion. Every third booth had something to do with AI, one way or another, and drones. And I got to tell you, that's a little scary that drones and AI in the same piece of equipment. That's a little scary, but that's where we're heading. So yeah, crypto as an industry has an answer for that as well. The altcoins that we start looking for that can do something besides just Bitcoin. And maybe you're thinking of the time that you had to convert your whole office over to Microsoft Office or something, right? Everybody used faxes and papers, and then at some point we started using spreadsheets in Microsoft Word. Well, we're perpetually on that cusp with crypto as well. Is that should we be using decentralized ledgers, blockchain, for different tools? And I met a lot of people that were doing exactly that at the Consumer Electronics Show. Like I said, International Startup Pavilion. A lot of companies around the world that are saying, I could use blockchain to solve this, and that could make us a lot of money. I've got that. I think that might be what you're asking about, the tease of. I think there's some blockchain projects out there that are established yet phenomenally undervalued.
Yeah,
I'm hoping you'll
that's
ask
what we
me
want to
about
hear
one.
about.
so that is like behind just the phenomenon of Bitcoin itself. Blockchain became such a buzzword that people put it on their corporate names just to get their stock to go up. But
Right.
just like the internet, the bullshit gets washed away, and then what's left is useful to somebody, and maybe really just hyper useful to a lot of us. And it sounds like you're telling me maybe that's where we are now. We've gotten past the hype of what everything you could do with blockchain, and people are really doing things. It sounds like you're telling me.
Do you remember when Larry Ellison of Oracle said, if I had called my company Oracle.com, I'd be worth $1 trillion?
Right.
Yeah, we humans do this for and to ourselves, right? .com anything went bonkers and then sold off. And then we had a nice decade of prosperity for things that actually didn't matter whether they were called .com, but if they used that technology, if they shifted bricks and mortar to a digital technology. And then you're right, crypto went through that. Is you could call yourself crypto anything, blockchain anything, Long Island iced tea blockchain, and boom,
Long
it went
Island
crazy.
blockchain.
That's my
Yeah,
favorite.
so we survived that, and AI is in that now. I was talking to my crypto capital subscribers and said I would say what I saw at again Consumer Electronics Show International Startup Pavilion. So this is as forward looking as you can possibly get,
Right.
that are willing to share themselves with the world, right? And I saw AI outnumber crypto 20-1 there. That's what I would estimate, 20-1 as far as we're using AI to do make your bed, AI to tell you whether or not you have glaucoma, et cetera, right? Some real uses, some ludicrous uses, but 20-1. But everybody that I saw that was building with crypto, that was, we're using it because we like the technology, not because of the flash, the zip, the appeal, et cetera. So
that's good.
So I'm looking for, yeah, absolutely.
Getting past that point is a real step forward.
If you can consider an industry where one of our top coins of the last few months is fart coin as having some measure of maturity.
Yeah.
It's a mature teenager. Yes.
Yeah, those are both true, right? We buy stuff called fart coin, and I'm claiming we're more mature than we used to be. So I'm not out there looking for opportunities to out compound the other guy by a couple of percent a year. And I understand that's a very suitable business model for hedge funds to beat the other guy with a couple of percent, a couple hundred basis points a year or something like that. We do knowingly look for outsized risk reward. We have 2 20-baggers in our portfolio now that I'm not ready to sell yet. We're writing them for more, and they're already at 20-bagger or more. I think you may or may not have known this. Crypto Capital has more 10-baggers than I think anyone in Stansberry's 25-year history, which is it's difficult for me to say that because Stansberry is where rock stars come, right, to do their research. That the pool of talent here over that last 25 years is phenomenal. But that's what crypto offers, and crypto research offers. Our 5-year average gain is about 148% on each recommendation, goods and bads. And we take our bruises in crypto capital. So if you can handle the volatility, the ups and downs that we've been talking about, the fact that we own our crash stage, that's part of the price you pay to outperform. And you can see that in the after the election of Trump, everything did well, but cryptos created $1 trillion in the months following Trump's election. And that's how optimistic the crypto industry is, that there's more to come on that. So I have a question for you. I do want to spill the tea on something that I think everybody should own some of, including yourself.
Bring it.
Not just Bitcoin, but
yeah.
I have a question for you. Before I get there, do you think we're talking to anyone in your audience who doesn't own at least some Bitcoin, $100 worth, $1,000 worth, maybe some of the ETFs, something like that?
I bet we are.
Do you think everybody's on board by now?
No, I don't.
No, I don't think everybody.
Not at all. No.
So there might be some skeptics still out there.
I think,
Probably.
yeah, and I think there's more than skeptics. I don't think, I think there are a lot of people who aren't merely skeptics. They're like, Bitcoin's crap. It's going to fail. It's, you can hack it and it's not anything like what it's purported to be. So I'm certain that we are talking to some number. I don't have a feel for what the percentage is, whether it's 5 or 50, but there's some number of people listening to this, I guarantee you, do not own Bitcoin.
And that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
One of the issues that comes up from time to time is whenever I'm talking, because you'd mentioned the Stansberry annual event, And that's sometimes the only chance I get to talk to people that are kind of outside my tribe. And people walk up to me and they'll say, well, there's a cadre of bought the top, sold the bottom, never going back, right? That hurt too bad. I'm never going back.
Right. Yeah, that's typical.
I'm not talking
right?
about those people.
Okay.
But there's people who challenge me on, well, how good is your Bitcoin going to perform? I'm not even talking about price, but how good is it going to work when there's no internet or no electricity or something like that? So I know there's, and that may be an oversimplification of what some people's doubts are. Right. The fact that so many of us hoard our Bitcoin actually turns a lot of investors off, that there's big piles of Bitcoin. Michael Saylor turns some investors off, right? That he's accumulating so much Bitcoin. Or the idea that the US government has, let's say, 200,000 Bitcoin that they could dump at any moment, that they've collected over the years from criminals, etc. So I don't really get to talk that much. Most of what I do is talk to people who are already on the in the tribe. So I thought I'd ask that about that. But we have a special report that we're putting out that is about a crypto opportunity. If someone's not willing to buy Bitcoin, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm wondering if there's anyone out there who would leapfrog Bitcoin, who would say, I'm not sure I buy that. But that last thing I heard about, now that has some real world applications or something like that, right? A technology upgrade, technology change. So we have a report that we're just putting out about an opportunity that we think is going to be a disruptive technology. And I'm not going to talk about that one here. I've got one that I do want to tell people to buy. This isn't it, but it could be the one I'm talking about could be a 10 bagger, could be a 20 bagger, if they just make a small splash. But I think this technology has an opportunity to replace maybe Ethereum or Solana, and which would put it as like a 384 bagger, 384x. I don't mean 384%. So to skeptics that are out there, I just ask them, like, how many of those? Like, I've invested in startups. I don't know if either of you have, but when you're investing in a micro, a angel level or a startup level or VC level or something like that, you look for those, right? You look for something that if this works, I could make multiples upon multiples on my money. And in this case, 384 times my money. Might not work, but worth looking at, right? You put $100 into that or $1,000 of that into that or something, and it pays off a lot of your other sins. Right. So I always wonder, like, is there a cadre of people out there that would say, I still don't love Bitcoin, but wow, a technology that I've never even thought of before that maybe the world needs, if that came online, 384x is worth maybe looking past some skepticism for. So that's something that the kind of research that we do is we're looking for those. We're looking for those that could maybe convince the world to try a new technology.
Yeah, I mean, as far as people who leapfrog, I have no feeling for that whatsoever. I'm more interested in what it is you're talking about that they're wanting to leapfrog to. I'm like, okay, like, what is this thing that I have to own?
Well, that one I'm not going to give away, but I will give,
we'll set that
we'll
aside.
give away a different one. Right. So to lead us up to that, I just went to Texas. Most of the story about what's going on in Texas right now is Bitcoin focused because some of the biggest Bitcoin miners in the world are relocating to Texas. Good energy, good laws are coming from Texas. They're getting a warm reception there. And Texas isn't waiting for Washington, D.C. to clean up their laws, right? Texas is thinking to themselves, we want a positive digital asset, positive blockchain environment. And I'm thinking also about, like I said, I just left Consumer Electronics Show, the International Pavilion. There were startups there from around the world: Netherlands, Belgium, Singapore, Israel, India, Thailand, Taiwan, Japan, Switzerland, Hong Kong, etc. But huge presence from France huge presence from Korea. I saw Turkish smart contracts, putting smart contracts online there. And they are currently working on Polygon. So that's one that if anybody can be talked into looking at something, Polygon is in our model portfolio, and we're big fans of that one. And we think Polygon is going to do really, really well over this next cycle. Remember, we talked about when Bitcoin peaks and the altcoins follow, what do I buy next? Polygon. But maybe the one that I really think everybody should be paying attention to is Internet Computer. And this, to me, satisfies the cheap, hated, and rising mantra.
You've mentioned this before.
I know there's people that are listening to me right now. If you're the least bit skeptical, you're going to say, oh, Internet Computer, you mean the one that launched with like a $300 some odd billion dollar market cap and then collapsed 90 some odd percent? Yes, that one. That's what I'm talking about. Right now it sits at about a $5 billion market cap. And I'm going to try to make the case right now for the difference between trading and research. And what we do is research. We don't trade so much. Some of our cryptos we've held for 3-4 years. We'll get in, get out when it's time to get out. We'll stop loss sometimes when it's appropriate. But we don't think of ourselves as traders. We think of ourselves as research because it allows us to buy the dip. If you, right, the difference between trading and research is if you've researched something very, very thoroughly and you know the value is there, just undiscovered, yet to be realized, then you'll buy more when it goes down. This is the one that I think you should start accumulating as well. Internet Computer. Ticker symbol is ICP. It's about $5 billion market cap. I think right now, within the next, let's call it 12 to 24 months, it should be a $50 billion market cap. Should be a top 10 coin, maybe top 5. It's a technology that's different than any other blockchain technology out there. And without talking people's ears off, I'll tell you what I mean by that. I think it's going to challenge Solana and then Ethereum in time. So give me 12 to 24 months. I think it could be a 10 bagger in your portfolio. Give me a little longer than that. I think it could be an 80 bagger as it catches up to and consumes Solana and Ethereum. Because thanks to Internet Computer has a unique technology that allows it to run other blockchains nodes within its blockchain, which to me means Internet Computer could be basically the internet of blockchain. Like when you use Amazon, you might be using their app, but you're using the internet. Right. Facebook, anything, iTunes, anything that you consume digitally, you're consuming the internet as well, right?
Right.
But the internet isn't monetized. Well, ICP, Internet Computer, does monetize that. And the fact that it is currently running a Bitcoin node and an Ethereum node already, and future plans to add on the top blockchains. And what I'm saying is Bitcoin is running on ICP, and so is Ethereum, and eventually all of the top blockchains.
All right, so what does running on it mean? Does that mean every time I buy Bitcoin, I'm doing it using ICP?
No, it means I'm glad you asked that. That's a great distinction that we need to make. Yeah. What it means is that the entire Bitcoin blockchain infrastructure can be contained within Internet Computer, so or Ethereum, etc. So blockchains are famous for not talking to each other, and one of the big problems that we've tried to solve for decades is, well, how can I get a blockchain to talk to another blockchain? Bitcoin doesn't. Your line, right, is the fish doesn't know it's in water. Okay,
yeah.
That's classic for blockchain. Bitcoin has no idea that an Ethereum blockchain even exists. It's not like Sprint and T-Mobile, well, no, there's Verizon and T-Mobile that know that there's another network out there that they have to hand something off to, right? It's not like a cell phone that as you drive across the country, your technology has to talk to other technologies that hand each other things. It's not like when I send you an email and my server knows your server is out there and says, here, read Eric's email. They don't know each other exist at
And
all.
Eric, though, to a certain extent, that makes sense for something that is trustless and peer-to-peer. It just goes straight from me to you, and there should be nothing in between,
Right.
it seems to me.
Right. So internet computer, the way they're built, that allows you to run a program. It could be a video game. It could be horoscopes. It could be a ledger. It could be anything that runs on internet computer. But side by side, one of the programs that's running on internet computer is Bitcoin. So imagine you have an AI that you want it to do certain work for you. Every morning, I want you to check these 50 stocks and then et cetera, right? You train your AI agent to do that. And if it needs information that has a cost and it has to go pay for that, we've talked about that in the past, that Kathy Woods and ARK, big believer in, well, Bitcoin is the currency of AI, right? AI can't have a debit card, so it'll spend Bitcoin on Lightning Network or something like that. Well, what if your AI and your Bitcoin and your Ethereum could all talk to each other on another platform, just like the internet? They all talk to each other and you don't care, but it's not monetized. Well, this one is. So imagine sitting around in 1980 when nobody knew what the internet was. It existed. Nobody had it. Nobody was really using it. And thinking to yourself, I wish I could get a fraction of a penny every time an email got sent or an HTTP got called up, et cetera, an FTP got sent. That's where we're at with this. So, like I said, we have a full-blown research report on it. ICP, it's out of Switzerland. Cheap, hated, and rising. It's plunged from 300 and some odd $billion market cap to 5. I think 12 to 24 months, it should be around 50. That's a 10-bagger. Anybody who's so bored with 10-baggers that they just have so many of them in their portfolio that they think, I don't need another. What am I going to do? That's such a tax nuisance and all that. Then don't listen to me on this one. But if you're not bored of 10-baggers, start accumulating ICP. And the reason I always try to make the distinction of research versus trade is, if I tell you buy ICP, we all know what's going to happen. The gods of crypto listen to Investor Hour, and it's going to drop $3 next week.
That's
right?
Yeah.
The minute I say this, because Eric can't ever say ICP and then it go up $30. No, it's going to drop $3, and there's going to be somebody out there that's saying, that guy, I could wring his neck. Buy more. That's what research. That's the confidence of the research. Is I think this is probably my highest conviction research that I've published in a long time. So there you go. Cheap, hated, and rising. Internet computer. Get yourself some while it's still only $5 billion.
Okay, so why a 10-bagger in the next 12 to 24?
I think it's underpriced. Well, I think the hate has been oversold. It has started to recover. I mean, the mantra of cheap, hated, and rising. You need the rising in there, right? We're not buying the bottom here. We're waiting to see that it didn't die. It plunged 97 some odd % and didn't die. So didn't die. That's one big criteria. And still working, starting to accumulate a lot of users. It's not just a technology that's out there by itself that nobody's paid attention to yet. Accumulating users, accumulating a lot of use cases. And I think we're starting to see some upward momentum. And we'll see we see enthusiasm that'll push the token price up from $12 to $16, and then we'll see a bad day in the market, will drop it right back down. So we're in that stage, but we're starting to also see higher lows, and I think your audience is smart enough to know, when you start seeing sell-offs but with higher lows, those are dips that you buy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you asked me a direct question though of why is it going to go up? Because it's a superior technology, and it's going to start accumulating a lot of pelts from other cryptos that aren't maybe as necessary as it. And I think that there are a lot of users coming online with it that see it's fast, it's cheap, it's a superior technology.
Okay. We'll be keeping an eye out for that one. I'll tell you. Well, if when we get to a 10 bagger, we'll have you back on the show. We'll try to do it that day.
I
right?
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or when it drops 50% and you want to go nya 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 to me.
Right. You also mentioned this other one though, Polygon, and I feel like we kind of glossed past that. We went to ICP, but you sound excited about Polygon as well.
I do. There's a phenomenon in the world that Bitcoin is number one crypto, Ethereum perpetually number two crypto. And some of the hate that Ethereum gets is as soon as anybody starts using Ethereum, it can cost $5, $10, $50 for a transaction, et cetera. They've been doing a lot of upgrades to try to solve that. But also, I'll remind you back to where I said, what about blockchains that don't talk to each other? So a lot of blockchains try to make themselves compatible with Ethereum. Well, Polygon is solving that. And if anybody remembers, what did we hear on the news every night leading up to the election was what was going on Polymarket. Polymarket was a technology where we could bet on the election. It was built on Polygon. So it was a real world application of, I can make a $1 bet, $1 million bet, whatever it was. I can make a $1 bet on the election or something like that. And the fees don't take all my profits on it because Polygon it operates like Ethereum, and basically it's accumulating all of the business that is Ethereum-like onto one chain. Kind of the common theme with me is I'm looking for something that solves a problem and thinks bigger than itself. But Polygon allows chains to interact, and Polygon can scoop up business from a lot of different chains. So I don't want to say it's too similar to ICP, but solving similar problems. And that is a big problem, right? We've got tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars locked up in blockchains that don't talk to each other. So solving that problem, being able to hand them over to each other. You can think of one of them is ICP or Polygon. One of them is like making phones all talk to each other. The other one is like making the internet all talk to each other. And that's kind of the value proposition of Polygon is it allows all of the different Ethereum compatible chains to sort of have a midpoint, a glue that they can all get the advantage of faster transactions, lower fees, and still be Ethereum compatible. So Polygon's another one that I think everybody should own. Little harder to buy because it's had a tremendous rally. But if you're looking for something to buy on dips and have some blue chips in crypto, then yeah, there's two of them, ICP and Polygon. Hey, I got to sneak in two that are in my research. That's the kind of research that we do with crypto capitals. We're looking for that kind of stuff.
All right, well that's awesome. We got two out of you. We're actually
that most people have to pay for.
That's right, most people have to pay for. So it's time for our final question, actually, now that we got two awesome picks out of you. And the final question is the same for every guest, no matter what the topic. If you've said the answer already, feel free to repeat it. There's no shame in that. And the final question is simply this. If I could just please ask you to give our listeners a takeaway, if you could leave us with a single thought, really, what would it be?
Set a goal, respect the goal, but give yourself a possibility to outperform.
Set a goal, respect the goal, give yourself a possibility to outperform.
Now that's obviously a crypto-centric problem to have, right? Buy something with a goal, 5x, 10x, respect that goal. How do I know when to sell? We talked about that, right? But what if I'm right? Right? You don't get to 384 baggers without having taken some money off the table. With crypto capital, we always take money off the table. So set the goal, respect the goal when you get there, but give yourself an opportunity to outperform.
Okay.
Don't just if you 3x your money, don't immediately sell it all and look for something else. Because what if you're right? What if your research, what if your trade, what if your position is right? And it really is a 10x. The volatility can shake a lot of people out. So there you go. Set the goal, respect the goal, but still maintain your opportunity to outperform.
All right.
In case you're right.
Yeah. Sounds good. I get it. It's not bad advice at all. Well, listen, Eric, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks a lot for
Pleasure's
being
all
here
mine.
and giving us a couple of picks. Yeah, you bet. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the contributor and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Stansberry Research, its parent company, or affiliates.